Hello, I'm Caroline Falls, your host today for Fleet Auto News Podcast, a new addition to our portfolio of publications in 2020. I'm joined by Dan Hilson, Chair of Charge Togther Fleet, a new initiative to help fleets adopt electric vehicles. This is a topic I'm excited about. I should also say Dan has another hat as founder and CEO of Evenergi, a provider of software and services to consumers and the automotive industry, making the transition to sustainable energy. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm really honoured to be here, and hopefully something of use for your listeners.
I'm sure it will be. Firstly, because it's so new, I think it's important that you tell us when and why the Charge Togther Fleet initiative was established. Even though I hope many of our readers would have heard of it, let's go over the main details of the initiative.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, we were lucky enough to get funded through the Australian Renewable Energy Agency to do a project a couple of years ago, which was around understanding the barriers to adoption of electric vehicles in fleets. And through that program, we identified quite a lot of barriers. So, a lot of them were around information gaps, around things like residual values and understanding whole of life costs. And the other were things like, having to appoint consultants and, feeling that cost would be a barrier. So through that process, we came up with those barriers. We actually published a report, which you can see on Evenergi's website. And I then was sort of talking to the CEO of the Electric Vehicle Council they had, and we were sort of thinking about what can we do about these barriers, and we cooked up this idea about Charge Togther. And one of the ideas was to focus all the efforts that have been started by people like AFMA and IPWEA and City Power Partnership, and really sort of all come together and come up with something that we thought would be useful for our various constituents. So we came up with this concept, and we all kind of worked together to close these gaps, to create a set of resources that would fill those knowledge gaps. So we had streams of work like developing a knowledge base and having regular webinars for education and training, and then developing the Better Fleet product, which is effectively a very detailed whole of life calculator. So all of those things are now live and ready, and you can see them on chargetogther.org. So that was kind of the background and story.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned IPWEA and AFMA as some of the partners or backers of this initiative. Are there any others that we should mention?
Yeah, for sure. Look, AFMA and IPWEA were fantastic partners in the initiative, and at the same time we had NRMA, New South Wales Government, Ausgrid, South Australian Government, City Power Partnership, and as I said, the Electric Vehicle Council. They all kind of came together to part fund the initiative and to help get it going. And along with that, I should mention we had around 17 fleet managers and about a similar amount of sustainability managers who sort of gave up the time to help give feedback as we developed various tools. So that was also a big part of this was, people like Ausgrid and NRMA providing their fleet managers to come and sort of give feedback along the journey.
Oh, okay. Now, one thing this horrible bushfire season has highlighted is air quality. I've been concerned for years and actually wrote about air quality a few years back for a national publication. And I think I realised then few Australians cared about it. But Australia's big and its skies were blue and it just didn't seem to worry us. But just look at the take-up of diesel in cities in recent years. What do you think about air quality as an argument for EVs, not just carbon emission reduction?
Yeah, well, look, as your listeners might know, while we have blue skies in Australia has the worst transport emissions in the developed world. And transport's becoming a much higher driver of emissions. It's the third largest and fastest rising source of emissions in Australia. So we do operate in the EU, and obviously there's very strong emissions targets coming in, ever more stringent. And that is obviously going to combat pollution in cities. And I think, with the bushfires, people are becoming more alive to the fact that, there is an air quality issue. We do have, air quality days. It does affect people, not only with asthma, but, over time, children and others. So I think it's a really critical issue. Yeah. The other thing I think that a lot of the fleet managers that read your publication would understand is that pollution is not just the pollution we see out above Sydney, it's also the pollution when a truck driver gets into their cab or a passenger starts their car in a confined space. So from an employee perspective, there's a whole other dimension to pollution. And obviously with electric vehicles, that just doesn't exist, So similar with noise pollution, you get an electric vehicle, doesn't emit any any noxious fumes locally, and that's also sort of a big part. If you've got a big depot and you've got trucks, coming in and out constantly, that is local pollution that is an issue as well for your employees.
Another thing I think that's interesting for us to discuss is EV prices compared with traditional internal combustion engine vehicles. Many argue that EV take-up in Australia is poor because of the price tag of a new vehicle. Do you think there's a case for companies to pay higher upfront cost for an EV because the running cost and therefore the whole of life costs will be lower? Can you just talk to me about prices and costs, something that's dear to the heart of any business?
Yeah, for sure. Look, there's no question that at the moment in Australia EVs are more expensive up front than on a like-to-like basis for similar vehicles. But obviously, when you get into the world of EVs, as you did with hybrids, it does become a whole-of-life cost issue, and fleet managers are, always alive to that whole-of-life question. So whether that whole of life is in the purchase cost, but even if you have an operating lease, ultimately the fleet manager or the finance company you're getting that car from will reflect that whole of life cost in the number they give you. So essentially what the Better Fleet tool does is it helps the fleet manager to look at the various scenarios where an EV will work and check others, or either check the offers that they're getting from FMOs and go, does that seem to be a level of price that seems right based on the risk that's baked into these offers, or just look at the cash prices, and it's completely configurable to the extent that you can change residual values and change all the things that a fleet manager needs to think about. And obviously those dynamics are pretty complicated. On the simple basis you could say, like for like, same price, same residual value, what's the cost and then what's the fuel cost savings for an EV and the servicing savings for an EV. But obviously there's more complex things like residual value. So in the tool we do allow people to modify residual values, but also there's a lot of literature in the knowledge base about, because these are some sort of really, really sensitive issues for fleet managers. It's something that is often thrown up as a big issue for EVs is the residual value and the whole of life calculation. So it's really important that those things are done. But at the same time, what the tool lets you do is look at the costs in dynamics where it will work. So, for example, higher driven vehicles, the more kilometres, obviously will have a better payback because, when you've got a lower running cost, it means that you get a better payback the longer you use it. Also, keeping a vehicle for longer. EVs have much less wear and tear, which means that, 2-3 years longer, they'll still potentially keep that residual value and won't start to break down as vehicles. So there's lots of dynamics you can play with to sort of find opportunities in your fleet where they will work.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one thing I haven't asked yet, but I'm curious about, is the enthusiasm you see among fleet managers for Charge Togther Fleet service in, I guess, what we would still call its early days. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, look, we've had a fantastic response to the tool. I mean, some of that was because we collaborated with the fleet community, in building the tool. So we had a lot of people that were already aware of it and, and using it. At the moment, there's about 300 fleets using the tool. Not all of those are fleet managers. So some of those are actually sustainability managers from, say, local government. But we do have a very large contingent of fleet managers. To be honest, a lot of those are larger fleets, as I said, government fleets. And, I guess talking to your readership base, it is quite hard to get to some of the smaller fleets and mid-sized fleets, so we are still trying to work out how to get to those, and we're very, very keen to get to all sizes of fleets because we think it has value to all those kinds of fleets, and we've been adding functionality constantly, which we hope will be valuable. So, for example, now we have a model which includes tax, so if you're a tax-paying organisation, it will actually cater for that. So yeah, we're really keen to sort of still get the word out. We've got a target this year of thousands of fleets, so we really want to push it out there this year as a tool and get more and more people using it.
Yeah, I'm sure our readers are going to be very interested in it. Now, just putting on your other hat, can you tell us about your work at Evenergi and what led up to you signing on to this Charge Fleet initiative? Well, I guess you've already told us about how you and Bayard from EV Council got together and cooked it up, but still.
Well, look, I mean, we're My business essentially is in the area of e-mobility, so the future of fleets and where are fleets going and how do we help, future-facing fleet managers and also sustainability managers to some extent, face the challenges that are coming not just from e-mobility but also from shared mobility and all the disruptions that are coming through. And so for us, the big thing there is awareness. If the fleet community becomes comfortable with these new things and can have their own tools to decide and get to that first step of feeling that there is an opportunity, then obviously for people like us, there will be an industry. And to be honest, in Australia, that industry is very early. So when we looked at it as a business, we said, look, where can we participate? And it really was in helping to get awareness and start the industry moving. And for people like us, and hopefully for others, the idea is that there will actually be a vibrant industry in electric vehicles, in future transport. And I know there's thousands of fleet managers who are very future facing out there, but obviously it's getting that message out to others that there's a really great opportunity to improve efficiencies and environmental performance of fleets, and that those opportunities we hope to work with lots of fleets to help them get there.
Okay, Dan, that's all my questions today, and I just want to say thank you for your thoughts and time. It's good to know our fleet industry readers have a helpline like you to call on for all their EV needs.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for allowing me to have this time and speak to you and your listeners.